Evening, everyone. This is Ryan Shishak with my proposal slideshow for social media and the effects within the Lodi Public Library. Just a little background on my event. For the past year, I've been overseeing the social media and online presence of the Lodi Public Library, which includes and is not limited to the Facebook, Twitter, and an e-newsletter that we send out every month through the website madmebe.com. The original purpose for this was to try and extend our reach to our patrons and not be just a brick and mortar type of library, but also to have a presence online that our patrons can connect with and see that we are evolving with the times and evolving with them as a library. My basic research problem was concerned more with what the overall results of the library's online presence were. Was it being effective? Was it bringing a positive result to the library, or were we just spinning our wheels and wasting our time? Some of the sub-questions I focused on was, has circulation, card distribution, event attendance increased because of the online presence? What type of social media was preferred by patrons? And also, most importantly, what were the patron reactions to the Lodi Library's social media usage? For my literature review, I covered a few articles, including from Dowd, what social media libraries were using at the time, and what sites were on the rise with libraries and being used more and more often, including such things as Pinterest or even Google Plus to an extent being used. In the article, social media libraries are posting, but is anyone listening? After that, there was Tam who wrote about what was working and what wasn't working for libraries and how they were able to figure this out with the article Facebook by the Numbers, 1.06 billion monthly active users. It basically gave an insight of there's this large online presence and libraries are trying their best to get the biggest chunk of that population involved with their library, either online or actually in person. And finally, there was an article written by Chen, Chu, and Zhu about what libraries were doing to gauge the success that they were having and how they were developing various ways to judge if something was working and what wasn't working, and to see how they could be more productively spending their time online with the libraries. In their article, How Do Libraries Use Social Networking Sites to Interact with Users? My overall methodology for this study was evaluation. The reason I chose it was I had, since I'm the administrator for the social networking sites and the newsletter, I had access to the statistics for both online, and since I worked in the library, the Lodi Public Library, I had access to event statistics and overall circulation statistics. It would allow me to get black and white results to the research question and the problems that I had posed. My study population, it wasn't going to have an age limit or anything. Since our newsletter, we sent out about 11,000 emails every month, and it basically goes to any patron that gave us their email address and access to send them emails using their application. But I was able to cut down on that overarching limit from 13 and over, since sites like Facebook and Twitter have those age limits already designed. So I basically use that as a starting point of 13 plus. Looking at the statistics for our page, the largest group that visited the Facebook page for the Lodi Public Library was between the ages of 25 and 34, but unfortunately it wasn't a big enough piece of the population to make it that area solely. It was only a little bit under 1/5 of the overall population, so I felt it wasn't prudent of me to just do a study focusing on that group. I felt just to keep it above 13 and older rather than just 25 to 34. That way, it would give a overall look at everything that the library offers to every patron. Since we do have events going for all age ranges, I felt it was best to just look at every age range that uses it online. I decided with the sampling design it would be descriptive and evaluative. Descriptive elements would be basically what is offered by the Lodi Library in the way of social media and how those elements are offered to the patrons. but the evaluative elements would come from how those descriptive elements are used by the public and the patron response to those outlets. It would be the best way to mix both elements to get the best results to the questions that I was posing. And the patrons had the option of answering the survey either online or filling out a paper version at the library front desk. My data collection instruments were basically what I had available as an administrator for the social media sites and the e-newsletter. Facebook especially does a very good job of getting page administrators full, complete access to who is seeing their sites at any one time, not so much in names, but what's being clicked on, how many people are seeing a certain post, and the overall interaction and scope of people going to the site. Mad Mimi is the same way, where basically by just clicking on a pie chart, I can see how many people have interacted with an email, how many have clicked on links, if anything's been bounced back or a person unsubscribed. I'm able to find out within a second. And Twitter does a fine job as well. It's not the best, though, because it is fairly bland with and generic with what you're given and what you're seeing as to who's looking at your tweets and who's interacting with them. And then the other collection method was going to be the voluntary 10-question survey that could be filled out online or in person at the library. The survey had 9 questions with limited choices that covered broad areas. They were both mostly yes or no answers, or questions with less than 5 options. I felt I designed them this way is to get direct responses from patrons, and as a way not to dilute with too many variables for the questions. I felt with under 5 responses, I would get a good swath of what people were thinking when it came to the social media in the library. Because with too many options, it then gets diluted, and you're getting these weird splinter percentages of people that may like something, but not knowing for sure if that's just the only real thing. And the last question of the survey was a general, do you have any other comments? This way it would allow patrons to share their thoughts in a more fleshed out manner. The ethical considerations I took for this was I first made sure I had the permission of the library director to do so, since it was dealing with surveying patrons and looking at statistics used on online aspects of a public department. And once that permission was received, I notified patrons that information was being kept and recorded for the purposes of the study, but that no personal information such as race, age, gender, ethnicity, names, anything like that, none of that was being kept. It was just basically what they looked at or what they clicked on or what their answers were in the survey. There wasn't many limitations outside of, since we're just in the start of our online presence, we don't solely promote events or information online. We still have a large swath of our information being spread around in-house or in person, with things like flyers and posters even being spread around town. So a claim can't be made that the library is only promoting online or people are only getting their information about the library online. And I had to include the research, the survey research, along with the evaluation research in order to get more solid results for my research questions and sub-questions. This way I can get the best possible correlation to those answers to questions. And to me, the significance of this study is to make a connection between social media and the libraries in a positive light, so where people can realize that both can coexist and work together for the benefit of the library system as a whole. It shows that the library, if it works, it shows that the library is able to evolve with the times and keep up with the patrons who are all having this ever constant and changing technology at their fingertips. And it's really necessary when a lot of people see the library as an unnecessary department to be funded by the public. A lot of people see technology as the wave of the future, and as the future is now, where libraries are seen as something of the past, you know, with print books and videotapes or audio CDs. So there needs to be something that shows that libraries are still an important part of the society and can work even in light of new technology that is available. So basically the study showed there is enough room with both new technology and old system of print books and person-to-person interaction. the survey got a lot of good response. People were liking the online presence with the social media or the newsletter. They were able to find out something that they may not have found out otherwise by coming into the library. The only problem is there is not a big enough number to go completely online with promotion for a library or as an online presence. Since it's in the growing stages, I mean, even though we have 11,000 people getting newsletters every month for the Lodi Public Library, that's a fraction of the people we have that come to this library or get cards with us. So it wouldn't be prudent to jump completely on the online bandwagon and say this is how we're going to promote ourselves now at this library. But if library works are willing to put the time and effort in cultivating a strong presence online and connect with the patrons, it's going to go a lot farther than just trying to stick to your guns and stay in the past where you don't go online at all and don't interact with the patrons in a way that a lot more are doing now than ever before. And basically here are a few sample survey questions. And again, they were simple things like, are you a current library patron, a former patron, or new patron? Which social media pages of the Lodi Library do you visit the most? Would you recommend the Lodi Library to another person because of its social media pages or experiences that you yourself have had in the library? And do you get most of your information from the Lodi Public Library from the social media pages? So very simple questions. They were to the point. They may be a little generic at times, but they got the needed results, and they answered the questions as best as they could. And then here are the references for my literature review for Chen, Chu, Wenzhou, Dowd, and Tam. So I thank you again for listening to this presentation, and I hope you learned a lot about the proposal and my research problem. I know I sure did. Have a good evening.